This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. The Biden administration on Tuesday proposed scaling back the amount of biofuels that U.S. oil refiners were required to blend into their fuel mix since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The decision was intended to provide relief to the U.S. refining industry after the health crisis slammed domestic demand for transport fuels. But the proposal drew criticism from both the oil industry, which claimed the measures were not enough, and the biofuels sector, which said the retroactive move to cut blending volume mandates would hurt farmers.
India surpassed Brazil in food exports to the League of Arab States for the first time in 15 years as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted trade flows in 2020, according to data provided by the Arab-Brazil Chamber of Commerce to Reuters on Tuesday. The Arab world is among Brazil's most important trade partners, but its distance from those markets took its toll as the pandemic rattled global logistics. Brazil accounted for 8.15% of the total agribusiness products imported by the 22 league members last year, whereas India captured 8.25% of that trade, ending Brazil's 15-year advantage, the data showed.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The U.S. Energy Information Administration on Tuesday left its 2022 world oil demand growth unchanged. In its monthly forecast, the agency left its oil demand growth estimate unchanged for 2021.
Oil prices fell below $75 a barrel on Wednesday, taking a breather after strong gains this week, as investors assessed the impact of the Omicron coronavirus variant on the global economy and fuel demand. Brent crude futures were down 83 cents, or 1.1%, to $74.61 a barrel at 11:13 GMT, after settling 3.2% higher on Tuesday. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $71.07 a barrel, down 98 cents or 1.4%, having gained 3.7% in the previous session.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
Britain's Trade Minister, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, will urge U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo on Wednesday to launch formal talks on cutting U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum before the end of the year, a senior British official said. The move comes after Trevelyan told chief U.S. trade negotiator Katherine Tai in Washington on Tuesday that pressure was growing in Britain for a hike in its retaliatory tariffs on whiskey and other U.S. products unless there was a swift deal to ease the U.S. measures, the official added. Trevelyan will repeat that message at a meeting scheduled in the U.S. Capitol with Raimondo on Wednesday, the official said, speaking on condition of anonymity.
Chile, the world's top copper producer, saw exports of the red metal soar over 35% to $4.92 billion in November, the Andean country's central bank said on Tuesday, bolstered by strong global prices of the metal. That helped the country post a trade surplus of $834 million in the month, despite the strong growth of imports. Overall exports rose some 30% year-on-year to $8.4 billion, while imports climbed 57% to $7.58 billion. Copper prices have registered all-time highs this year, supported by expectations of a solid recovery in the world economy after the coronavirus pandemic and rising demand for the metal needed in electronics and construction. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. The European Union is set to decide this month whether investments in gas and nuclear energy should be labeled climate-friendly but will defer a decision on farming, EU officials said, as it draws up rules that may affect future financing. The EU is finalizing what activities should be considered climate-friendly under its Sustainable Finance Taxonomy, a list of economic activities and criteria they must meet to be labeled as sustainable investments. The EU's Executive Commission is expected to confirm this month whether gas and nuclear would be deemed climate-friendly, but has shifted a decision on farming to a later date, two officials familiar with the talks told Reuters.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.